Hey everyone, this is Snoo, and today I want to bring to your attention a very potent and oddly viable tech option that was just unleashed this league thanks to the brand new Keystone Speaker of the Dead, which of course is about Torment League, which received a fresh coat of paint this time around. A very peculiar keystone, definitely needs a lot of testing. We're about 10 days into the league, so there has been some testing, especially groups have been seeing what they can do with this. And I gotta say, there's been some rumblings in the Magic Find community that this is the real deal. Getting some very Sentinel or Calandra-esque vibes here as far as how much it might potentially change the Magic Finding meta or effect or impact it anyway. Now, of course, I'm going to be making some content around that. You best believe I'm going to be exploring that on my end. We'll definitely be looking at Magic Find and all that stuff in the near future. However, as a kind of segue into that, I want to take a look at this Keystone and this tech in a more player power oriented kind of way. I think this is being very much overlooked. And it involves the combination of this keystone in your maps with this helmet, a long forgotten relic of the past, Fairgraves Tricorne, which did receive its own fresh coat of paint last year. Asmodeus made a video on this. It was quite interesting and ahead of its time, apparently. He made a kind of magic finding Fairgraves ghosted video that before this keystone even came out. It's there. You can go see it on YouTube right now. It is basically the only piece of content that even mentioned this helmet, which means nobody else is talking about this. And I really can't understand why people would have not immediately gravitated towards potentially using this helmet. Yes, I know there are other helmet options, but ironically, the helmet is probably the most flexible gear slot when it comes to magic finding after all. So I'm very much on board with checking this out, and I have been testing it myself. So let's talk about it. Let's see what kind of power you can get from combining. We'll start from the top here, and we're going to get into a map too. I'm going to show you a map with the character sheet open. We'll try to catch the buffs happening live and everything. Here it says, the keystone, let's just kind of read it from here. Speaker of the Dead causes tormented spirits to be unable to possess monsters, but instead are able to possess players for 20 seconds. Only 20 seconds. So that's unfortunate. It's not forever. Players possessed by tormented spirits can apply the tormented spirits touch modifier, which what the spirits that is the buff that the spirits give when they kind of phase through normal and magic monsters before actually possessing a rare or unique monster. Up to 50 nearby. Now that is a finite number, of course, but that has everything to do with like magic finding and stuff. Normal or magic monsters per tormented spirit possessing the player. Now it does, I can tell you right up front that the buff stacks. You can actually acquire multiple stacks of it, and I believe if you get like 2 ghosts at once, that means you're able to affect 100 monsters at that time. So that's what it says. This one basically, it's important. There's a distinction to be made here ahead of time. Possesses players. Important distinction, because the helmet, on the helmet side, says you can be touched by tormented spirits. Now remember, I just said touched is what we'll be doing to the monsters after we get possessed. But no, actually this double dips. We in fact can be touched and possessed at the same time, even though other monsters cannot. I have tested it. It does in fact work. So let's read into Fairgraves Tricorne and see what it gives. First of all, I don't know, could be the new best thing since sliced bread, since it allows you to drop fishing rods, okay, for what that's worth. Cannot be shocked. It is actually kind of exciting for me because then I'm thinking, Brine King, Pantheon, shock, don't even need to wear Purity of Elements potentially for a Magic Finder would be huge, a huge luxury to have. Also, here, look at this buff. So this is the first bit of info where I'm actually giving you some numbers on the buff. You can be touched by tormented spirits. Making contact with a tormented spirit grants a Fairgraves Tricorne buff. It's its own special buff for this helmet, providing 50% increased damage and attack speed and cast speed and movement speed. Let's think about that for a second. That's a lot of power just by itself. This buff does not stack and lasts indefinitely, not 20 seconds. This one lasts forever. Until you exit the area, or you're dead. So, try to make a character that can survive, I guess. Additionally, it grants the corresponding X-Touch buff below, which we can see down here. They were kind enough on the wiki to put the entire catalog of spirits, different kind of spirits, and their touch buff as well as their grip buff. Now, grip means a possessed buff, and the player, us players, will get to have both. We'll get to have at most one touch buff. Now, if you are touched by a tormented spirit through this helmet, and then you run into another tormented spirit, it overwrites the original one. So basically what that means is always have 50% increased damage, attack speed, cast speed, and movement speed. And then also get one of these buffs. And you look to see, scroll down this list. You can kind of pause it if you want. There's some really big ones here. 50% more attack speed, skills repeat, and additional time. Global fizz damage. We got a random curse on hit. That could be weird. Poison on hit. Fizz gained as extra fire. There's one for cold and lightning as well. 100% max life as energy shield. These are pretty impactful buffs. I mean, they definitely seem like a powerful version of a stolen headhunter buff, honestly. But only one at a time. To keep that in mind. Now, the spirit's group buff, just to remind you, this is not indefinite. This will only be for 20 seconds. Does stack. You can get multiple copies of this at once, and it gives its own separate damage as well, that on top of the Fairgraves Tricorne buff, which I'm highlighting right now. How much is it? Well, I had to go in and I had to research that one. Nobody actually knew. Evidently, it is essentially identical to the Fairgraves Tricorne buff, except a little bit less. It's 35%. And I'm 99% sure it is 35% increased damage, attack speed, cast speed, and movement speed. I was able to verify it with absolute certainty. 35% movement speed and attack speed. At the very least, I know that much. So that is a total of 85% of all of these things, I believe. And then, of course, it can stack up further, with 50% of it being permanent and 35% potentially stacking indefinitely, but on a 20-second timer, which means you got to move fast. Okay, I love moving fast, so that works out for me. And then it also, each one of those possessed buffs will give you one of the spirit grips ones, and these do stack with the other buffs, aforementioned buffs. So again, only one spirit's touch buff, but an unlimited, potentially unlimited number of spirits gripped buffs, with some, absolute crazy things in it. 500% damage, leeches life. Okay. You can apply an additional curse, chance to freeze, 60% fizz is extra cold, global blind, summons corpses, weird thing, increased movement speed. Then it's got some things that won't affect you at all. I guess like that. Smoke clouds, just some really wonky, 50% max life, 125% AoE. Really weird and powerful things. It could be a lot of fun. It's definitely going to make each map experience quite a bit different, I would imagine, at a certain point. So that is pretty exciting news and a lot of power for double dipping in the possession. Now, normally, I never really paid that much attention to Fairgraves Tricorne helmet because it wasn't that, I'm not going to go through the trouble of like putting tormented spirits in my map. I'm not going to sacrifice a scarab for that under normal conditions. But now, thanks to this keystone, I just might play the game this way. And if I'm going to play the game this way, I'm definitely going to give this some serious consideration. You think about how much power you can get from a helmet. I mean, this is essentially a permanent buff in a map for all intents and purposes. To me, assuming that I don't die, this is a permanent buff. How many helmets give you this much power on top of the stats here? Okay, not many, really. So the Magic Find, for Magic Finding, the helmet is the most flexible slot, as a matter of fact, I would argue. So that's especially fascinating to me. Let's get into the game. And I want to show you, I'm just going to put a tier 1 because I'm going to make it easy on myself here, and a few extra tormented spirits. We're going to finish out the video by just kind of showing you some stuff here. Kind of check out my default movement speed here. Hopefully we can kind of track this. We're going to we can at least catch movement speed and attack speed. So attack speed 78, movement speed 26. Now again, there are some ramifications for magic finding with this as well, but I'm not talking about that in this video. Just want to specifically talk about the power granted here. Now you might notice I have a slightly different looking character than normal. You can check the character on the site in the description below. Okay, here we go. But I'm not going to be sharing the POE as of yet. Okay, now I get possessed. And notice, once we let that quick silver out, 135. 135. And where's the attack speed? I kind of missed it there. 163. 163. 111. Okay, there we go. 111. All right, 76. Okay, yeah, because it was 26, and then it said 111. It's kind of hard to check because I got other buffs rolling here, but I do kind of want to let you see a little bit here. Now I have the permanent buff. Now remember, now everything is definitely, all my buffs are definitely gone now. A part of it is that I got rage, I think, is where that might be different. But anyway, it said 26% movement speed, now 76. So you can see it's Fairgraves Tricorne buff, which is right here, is in fact giving me 50% increased movement speed. And it's over here too. Attack speed 128. I believe it's at 78% before, so you can see that. And then the defense number, I'm not going over that. It's really hard to track, but you know, with enough looking at it and testing and cross-referencing with others, we were able to verify that. Let's go ahead and try to find one more, so you can just kind of get a sense. Maybe try to catch it one more time, and then we'll call the video there. Because I got at least 3 spirits in this map. Oh, okay, some of these are actually possessed rares. Whoops. Now this is a tier 1, so it's very easy for me to just nuke the spirit. Some people might be thinking, well, you know, this isn't going to work because we're just going to accidentally kill the spirits. I can promise you in a tier 16, when you engage the spirit, it has 90% damage reduction. You're not going to be killing the spirit 1 second off screen. Unless you got like hundreds of millions of DPS, which if you're magic finding, you don't have that much DPS, by the way. Even with a bunch of buffs up. It might be a little bit difficult with skills like Lightning Arrow and Tornado Shot, but I think it will be manageable if you're paying attention. I think people underestimate the value of paying attention and how that will affect the way you play. Well, that's going to be discussed in another video later. I can't really see another spirit, so I guess maybe we're just going to call it there. I did kill one, but I think that... Oh, there we go. Okay, all right. So see, I got one there. I didn't actually see which spirit it was. You have to go through the replay, and then maybe you can kind of see which spirit it is. But you can definitely tell that I am, in fact, moving faster and attacking faster with that spirit's buff. And it's going to be down here in a second. Okay, now it's down. Let me see which spirit this is. This is Arsonist. Arsonist. Okay. Okay. I'm just going to go back in here. 135. I think it drops down to 111. Yeah, 111. So it goes from like, what was it, 76 to 111. Yeah, 76 to 111 is 35. And then 163 there. So very last thing we'll check is, you know, what does it say? Arsonist. Okay, so I don't think we get any credit for this, but we do get this. So because the Arsonist was the last spirit that I touched with Fairgraves Tricorne, I am now at that moment there permanently until further notice. 25% fizz gained is extra, 10% chance to ignite, 25% extra fire resist. And then for 20 seconds, I get this buff as well. It's a crazy amount of fizz is extra. So you can kind of see what that spells for magic finding, maybe fizz gained as extra physical conversion, magic finding builds. I definitely see a window of opportunity here to favor that side of things. Quite often I'm kind of split down the middle. This is kind of long-term outlook on magic finding. So I definitely think this league, I am very much inclined to go with a physical conversion character if I'm going to be receiving extra buffs like this that I never had in previous leagues, on top of, you know, headhunter buffs or inspired learning buffs that are new here. And you can see there, that is what it looks like there to be touched on there, and it's just on there permanently. There's no timer at all. So there you go. That's the video. That's what I wanted to show you. Get excited about this crazy combination now that we have, double dipping in the player power from Ghosted Tormented Spirits. This theme apparently is going to be very much a ghostly themed league for me. What about for you? Are you interested in trying this out? Interested in wearing this helmet? Or are you just going to, you know, play the game the way you normally do, which is nothing wrong with that. And then just kind of sit on the sideline and see how this goes for the other people who are giving it a try. I want to see or hear what you have to say about it. Let me know in the comments below. In the meantime, better get your Magic Find characters ready.